Welcome to the Other Part podcast where we explore differences through conversation. Just a reminder that this program is not meant for minors and that we're just having a conversation here. We're not telling you how to live your life as only you can make that decision. Today, we are going to be talking about manhood and masculinity in contemporary Jamaica. Today, we have joining me Michael, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. When it comes to manhood and masculinity, growing up as a male, hear the phrase, you need to man up. But what exactly does that mean? And what does that mean for us here in Jamaica? Do we even know what it is to be a man? Do we know what manhood is? What masculinity is? So these are some of the things that we are going to be tackling in our conversation today. Michael, could you just give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Hi, good morning. I'm Michael. I'm a man, and I'm here on your show today. And I would definitely give you my take on what manhood means for me, as well as masculinity.
Go ahead and tell us some more about what does manhood mean to you versus masculinity.
Well, for me, manhood definitely means having yourself together financially, mentally, spiritually, and being persistent in your own endeavors, kind of a sense of independence where you try to do the best you can, but it won't be at anybody's cost or liability. So it comes with a certain type of pride that you have to uphold. That's at least what manhood means for me. Like, for instance, like I am transitioning between school and going into the working world. So I'm actually like getting myself ready for the adulthood that which is basically paying rent, utility bills, and other forms of expenses. Like I should basically have myself running and together in the sense where I'm not really like begging friends like, hey, can you like spot me for this week, or having to rely too much on my parents. So that's kind of what manhood means for me. It means gaining a sense of independence where you don't see yourself too dependent on the people that you've always been relying on. So it's like it's kind of a sense of freedom.
Okay. All right. That's a very interesting take on that because I remember when I was growing up, often hearing those terms, I question what does it really mean? And nobody seems to really being able to really answer that question. Because in listening to what you just said as to your definition of manhood, it falls in line to the many various ways Google decides to answer what is manhood. But this is my observation. All the definitions that has been provided for manhood, that to me is being an adult. So how do you differentiate between manhood versus womanhood versus adult? Because me personally growing up, I thought all three components were different. But the older I get and the more I think about it, they all seem like the same thing. So is there a difference? Because it sounds the same to me.
Oh, yeah, I could completely get you. It's primarily due to the fact that all three can be used in a type of way, like in a replaceable kind of sense, where one goes into manhood at a certain period of their life. So it's not like you're talking about yourself when you're young. It's actually reaching a coming of age where it actually is adulthood. A male in their adulthood is manhood, and a female in her adulthood it would be considered her womanhood. But it's more specified. Well, there are also nitty gritty things that make a good differentiation between manhood and womanhood. So both would be considered a form of adulthood, but womanhood and manhood are different based on characteristics or behavior patterns. For like take for instance, it's what we would call say our priorities um in this stage of our life. Like I said, my priorities is basically establishing myself, trying to be more conscious of my spending, trying to, well, let's say a little bit more demographic, like my lifestyle. Like for me, my priorities would basically be my mental health and my physical health. So I've made a promise to myself that I wouldn't go into my 30s because I don't wish to have like a pot belly. I want to be more physically fit. So that's basically my priority. So I basically try to have a routine centered around becoming more physically fit. So me wanting to be more muscular for myself is basically becoming a part of my life and my lifestyle, where my eating is centered around it, my viewing is centered around it, my phone alarm reminder at 8 p.m. is centered around it. So, I, for womanhood, I not being a woman, I can't really dictate to her that she can't work out whenever she wants. But as a male, I made it my priority to fit that in because I see it beneficial to me in my life. A woman's priority could literally be as various as basically she could wish to have as many clothes as she like. She can wish to go out as she like. She can wish to dance with as many guys as she likes. She can choose to be someone who's basically monogamous or polyamorous, but that's basically her in her womanhood and showing her sense of independence. But that's how she displays her womanhood. But me in my manhood, it's basically me trying to set a type of standard for myself as a man in my adult phase where I basically saying that I'm being progressive or milestones or achievements that I'm trying to make for myself, like investments, completing my education, working on my body, working on myself spiritually. But it's definitely not exactly the same as what women would do. It's definitely tailored, gender specific in a form of way, if you understand me.
All right, gender specific. When you say gender specific, so we're talking about it's something that's more in alignment to a man versus a woman based on biology.
No, it's not
Okay.
so much biology. It is biology, but it's not particularly biology. Demography and biology have barely anything in common. I would say demography of a male is definitely their social network, their viewing, the type of job that they wish to get, their so it's definitely something a lot more psychological and social that I'm actually trying to like establishing manhood.
All right. I definitely understand what you're saying, but what I am personally struggling to connect is what's the difference? Because I hear what you're saying and what you're saying makes sense. So I don't disagree with you in any way. But it just seems like these words just shouldn't exist, meaning manhood versus womanhood. I really can't determine what the difference is between them. When I ask the follow up question, if it's something that's different based on your biology, you're biologically born a man, so your goals and whatever are going to be different from someone who's biologically born as a female. And you said the answer was no. And of course, that is the right answer because in this day and age, you're not restricted to what you can and can't do just because of what you're born with between your legs biologically. That's very repressive. But then that just makes me feel confused because I don't get it. What's the difference? But I guess that would be a different topic, whereas I would definitely need a female counterpart to express how is womanhood different from manhood, because in everything that I have observed on both sides, it just means being an adult, being responsible, taking care of yourself, being independent, and all of
You
those lovely things.
you are correct, but like I said, it's more tailored, gender specific. Like I said, gender and biology are two different things.
Okay.
Um, I can't give a woman's perspective on this. I only can give based on observation. But
Mhm.
like I said, I just think it's definitely what a person considers to be their priority in their adulthood that makes manhood or womanhood. A woman's priority in womanhood could literally be to take every single man in a square mile. Like that's literally could be her priority. Or her priority could literally be let me try and have 4 kids I'm before I'm 35 because she should get them out of the way. That could be her priority. She could literally just be someone who wishes to not do relationships on a whole, and that literally can become her priority. And that and all of those could literally just be a sense of independence, meaning that she never had to rely on anyone to accomplish these objectives.
Mhm.
So I just think it's priority.
All right. All right. Fair enough. All right. So let's go into the other components of the question, looking at what masculinity is. When I typed in masculinity in Google, I got such a very short and vague description of it, whereas it defines it as qualities or attributes regarded as characteristics of men,
Hmm.
and that to me is very vague, because that means that to me is bringing me back to my original question: how do you define manhood? And the internet seems to be struggling to even define what masculinity is, because even when I googled manhood, they had so many different definitions. They had over 7 different definitions of what manhood is, but none of them are very clear. They gave this vague statement about you transitioning from a boy to a man. It talks about sexual peak, as we prior discussed. All of those definitions that they gave us just means, okay, you're an adult now. Has nothing to do with man, because women go through the same thing. So yeah, when it comes to masculinity, how do you even define that? According to Wikipedia, it's saying that masculinity is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles associated with men and boys. Although masculinity is largely thought to be socially constructed, research indicates that some behaviors considered masculine are biologically influenced. That definition sounds outdated, meaning it's something that would be perfectly fine and accepted in like 1960, 1970 or something. But in today's age, you tell this to a young boy growing up, what are they supposed to do with it?
Okay, like I still kind of agree with that definition. That definition could probably need a next sentence after it, but I still agree with that form of definition. In the sense where masculinity is concerned, I believe masculinity is degree. It's not a one word fit all like a shoe size, where my masculinity and your masculinity are definitely the same exact thing. No, it's definitely not. And I do believe masculinity is very subjective to where you are, because I would say Jamaica's masculinity compared to America, Dubai, or China. or Japan's form of masculinity, they vary in so many different ways. And I'm just letting you know based on observation. So here are things that I do believe that affects what masculinity really is, or what we really should be considering masculinity. So masculinity, in my definition, is the degrees to which one expresses their maleness. Now, this is affected by our traditional understanding of what it means to be a male, which is called the hegemonic form of masculinity. It's like saying by default you assume a male's identity or a male's action is A, B, C, or D. By default, a male's favorite color is blue. By default, a male loves football. By default, a male loves rough things. A male's naturally rough and tough and doesn't cry or complains about hardship. Like those are the things that I would consider to be like a hegemonic form of masculinity that has made scars on many boys growing up nowadays, because I do not believe that's like the only way a boy can express themselves as a male. Like we in the Jamaican context, males here are definitely not emotionally mature, and I do believe like that's to their detriment, because we have families without fathers because they're too independent to stay with their wives or baby mother, and they're too independent and strong to want to ask them for assistance with their issues. So we just end up with boys growing up fatherless and mothers telling their sons. And I do believe like this is a dumbest thing as well, because we have women in this system as well actually contributing towards what male definition is. So being that we ourselves have created this, how should I put this hegemonic toxic masculinity, we are definitely like reflecting it on younger boys so that they can see this is what you're going to expect being born male. So we want you for breed a bag of girl by before you reach 16, at least two children before you reach age 16. You don't really have to complete college because you're a boy, so you're gonna get a job as a soldier, police officer, construction worker. You gotta make enough money. You gotta drive a nice car, have a nice gold watch. Your favorite sports are football and cricket. Make sure say if you bring over any girl that you know that them know for find them where them yard. Man, I really mind if I three girl a week. Man, I care. Just make sure so them know what the door is. Like mothers don't teach their sons how to treat other women, and that's kind of disturbing. Like that's them helping men, helping to conform with this toxic masculinity that's been happening. And the fathers are even worse. They're literally displaying this horrific behavior, and we're like to say like, so is there anywhere else that we're supposed to look for, or definition of what masculinity is? Like, is there any proper way of us to see someone doing what it actually is and this understanding? Because if we just keep doing this, then there will be nothing else but this. So, and the reason why this is hegemonic masculinity is because there's such a wide influence of this going on for so long that when you see something different, it kind of seems like society itself is pushing back against it. Like if you see a one parent family with just a father and the mother is absent and the father wishes to take care of the child, it's like we're questioning things. If we see a family with the father not cheating or promiscuous, I'm bound to hear someone creating some kind of rumor or stirring something up, just for the mere fact that this sense of stability is so strained in a society where commitment is always fleeting and struggling. But if we literally take these exact same words and terms and then relate it into a different country's context, we literally see a completely different story. Now, in America, men are actually getting married before they even reach the age of 18 or 19. Like, I don't understand how true love work that you literally choose to marry the first person you've met and the first person you sleep with. In my observation in Jamaica, not even on the 16th person you slept with, you made a decision. Not even on the 16th person. But in America, this obviously the first time, yeah, you sleep with somebody, it has to be true love. It has to be true love. And I don't understand, like, I really do not understand. But I understand it enough to see that it's actually in terms of maturity and accountability. And those are the qualities of maleness that we're actually lacking in our society. We're not having enough men needing maturity and accountability in their adulthood, in their form of masculinity. So bring it on to a different country's context, probably America or Japan. In Japan, I'm literally seeing guys sitting in each other's laps, and and laying head on each other in buses while they sleep. And I'm like saying, these are some very homosexual actions right here. But if I was to ask, they will literally both have girlfriends. So it's just that they're so comfortable in their sexuality that these simple actions don't really determine their sexuality just by doing it. It's just normal. But if you were to bring that action here in Jamaica, it will definitely be scrutinized and your sexuality would definitely be assumed, automatically assumed, like instantly assumed that you're gay without a question. Your girlfriend would even get a phone call saying, your gal get bun. Your man I give you a bun with her next man. And then she would ask, so yeah, what was he doing? He hit the her next man's shoulder. Him gone, him move, him gone sideways now. It's too late. The relationship done. That sense of drama that we create here in Jamaica to something that is so simple. So I don't know. It's like we've literally been toxic that when something friendly or too friendly happens, it's like it creates an alarm. So I do believe that in our society, our hegemonic masculinity has gotten away from ourselves, and we've literally allowed other people to create what our identity as males should be. And I believe that we are definitely afraid of defying this hegemonic masculinity that's been given to us from birth since our fathers can't give a better example, so we ourselves are definitely too afraid to break this trend or cycle.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because as you expressed what you just expressed, I was just remembering some things. Like I remember I was working at this place in the past, and we were in public. This man and his girlfriend, they were sitting next to each other, and the girl touched him in his side, and he happened to be ticklish. And her response, she literally called him out and telling him that he's a sissy and he's weak and he's a man, not supposed to be ticklish. We were on a public bus. It was full. When she started saying that, the entire bus went quiet. Everybody felt it for him. Yeah, your own girlfriend is doing that to you on a public bus in front of everybody, having everybody hear all of that. First of all, what she said is stupid. You being ticklish doesn't mean that you're a less of a man. You're just a human being. So it goes back into what you just said. Women feed this toxic masculinity to our young boys, and then they grow up to be monsters. Because that was the first I've heard something like that, saying that man is not supposed to be ticklish. It's just a human reaction. Get a feather, you can make even the most muscle bound strong man out there squeam and wiggle and giggle like a little girl, because it's natural. And you being a man or a woman has nothing to do with it. But the blind leading blind, you're constantly telling us be a man, but you don't know what a man is. With all of this vague information as to what a man is, and the term being shoved down our throats saying man up, our only assumption is that we must be violent, ignorant, and barbaric. That is the closest identifier that is associated with being a man versus a woman. Because it is expected that the woman is supposed to be this delicate rose, and the man is supposed to be the breadwinner, the broad back, don't let nothing bother him, be super strong. He must be Superman, really, and she must be the lovely Lois Lane.
No, it is that type of narrative. I'll get the man then killed. That's literally that is literally the reason why the death rate between man and woman, men vastly triple, quadruple the death rates. We literally have more men dying each year than women. And the reason is because you're literally being coaxed into doing these dumb actions to prove your masculinity. Literally getting a bike and revving it up to the highest gear and standing up on the bike and releasing the pedals. Literally driving fast cars that you yourself basically could not have driven years before because you don't even have the practice. And climbing extremely tall buildings and jumping off them. That's literally what they have us doing, just to prove that we are manly enough. Now, that is a trap, and we need to allow men to free themselves from being quote unquote Superman just to prove that they're actually men. Superman is a fictional character who was put himself in danger every single day. I even saw an episode where he was contemplating quitting his job and being Superman full time because he had actually had an occupation of being a journalist alongside Lois, and what he was contemplating quitting his job, and then someone made Superman know that, hey, she always put herself in danger. And then Superman just thought to himself, oh wow. So that means that regardless of me quitting my job, she would have gone out there and done something that would have put her life at danger regardless. So it would not have changed anything. So he made a conscious decision to just say, like, let me at least do myself a favor by staying with my job. Because if she dies outside of my watch, it's not my responsibility. It's literally not always his responsibility. She should have been responsible for herself. He should be responsible for himself. We should not be having society dictate to us in our own lives how we should live our lives or put ourselves at risk if we even want to. Like us putting ourselves at risk just to prove a point is literally it's astounding. It's literally amazing that we're risking ourselves and our sanity just to prove these simple points to people, especially women. Especially women. Like for the guy that had his girlfriend saying he's not a man on the bus. I would have dumped her like immediately as the bus just reaches destination. I would have just like, I don't think we can continue. The type of man where you like is the type that choke women and not have no ticklish glands. Probably never shed a tear in his life. Probably can kill like a couple people and never shed a tear. Probably been to prison for 2 years and then get released. Have a couple tattoos. Probably a picture of his mom and a knife and a gun on his body. Like you can't really have men be defined as such mindless, savage creatures when they're a lot more.
Yeah, because when you're saying that, I was like, if he was the cliche definition of what is expected to be a man, she would have been hit, and that's not good. So it's like she is demanding him to be more of a macho man, more of a caveman, but at the same time, she really doesn't understand what she's asking for because what she's asking for, she could never talk to a man like that and get away with it. There would be, well, by the end, in a few minutes, he'd be dragged off to prison for putting his hands on a female because he doesn't know how to properly communicate. So why is it that we keep on asking for things that we really don't want? S- I, it's just really sad.
Okay, I just believe in her situation, in his and her situation. Although I do think that she basically earned herself a hot box, like a Gaza box. I don't believe violence is the answer, and I believe that she's just the wrong person because she should have respected him. It's a lack of respect for men that are not so masculine that's ruining men. Like if we have other forms of masculinity and we've respected them, then we would never have had this issue in the first place. But
Yeah,
because she's gone ahead and opened fear mode, I'm pretty sure she's gonna end up somewhere. Pretty sure she's gonna get it one day.
yeah, which is very sad because in this day and age, I can't believe that's still something that we're still struggling with. We have all of this intellect, but it's like we know better and we don't want to do better, which brings me to my next point. Because I've had a similar conversation of this nature with some various guys of society. And in summary, they are so smart, they're so intelligent. And at the end of the conversation, this is what I understand. Yes, they are fully aware of all of this bullshit, but if you don't comply with the bullshit, you're going to be targeted. So they literally have to dumb themselves down for the sake of their friends and society on a whole in order to survive. So it really feels like we have the shit end of the stick because in 2021, we're on this path of equal rights. Women are not restricted to wash, cook, clean, and spread their legs. Women can do anything that a man can do. But should a man open up his mouth and start demanding equal rights, saying that, hey, I do not want to climb up on the roof to get rid of the wasp nest, you do it. All of a sudden, he's a sissy, he's a wuss, he's not a man anymore. But yet, we want equal rights, but we're not willing to give it. So, are we doomed? Because it just really sounds like men on a whole were just way too chicken to even do anything for about it compared to our female counterparts where they have this entire movement And here we are just suffering in silence.
I find that very funny because feminist objective normally is towards equality of the genders. So I really am truly trying to understand how women grade themselves higher in terms of superiority in towards men, or are we just throwing away our power? Like, are we just throwing away our power, or are we actually just trying to get them to understand? Because there's a difference between just conforming and actually questioning what was being asked.
Let's see. I don't see where we're trying to let them understand. Right now, I see men just being scared. We are scared because when it comes to this equal rights thing and even certain comments that we would make, even when it means nothing of a sort, our balls are literally already in the grasp of the scissors. And just at the slip of the tongue, our balls are going to get snipped just like that. So we're literally afraid. So it's like we don't know what to do. We can't say this because it's going to seem as we're repressing women, or it's we're going to be branded as misogynistic and this and that and blah blah blah. But when it comes to us and our feelings, nobody gives a shit. So yeah, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I get you, but at the same time, it's like we're not trying to condole conflict for conflict's sake. It should never have been man versus woman in terms of rights. Like, I know Jamaica literally has like guidelines in terms of social conduct for men and women. Like, let's take for instance, dancehall has been bullying out oral sex for the longest of time. Then Cartel in 2014, Freaky Gal in Gal Them Who Love. Actually, I think it was 2010. But after that, it's like every single woman are proud to say that they actually do oral, and then men are like, we're still burn fire against us doing it still. But simultaneously at nights, they're the ones that enjoy it the most.
Hmm. I
So I
say,
just believe
okay.
there's a public display of what masculinity is, and then there's like as a performance, and then there's like a display of masculinity that is the actual one that you display at your house. So there's like how you behave on social media versus how you behave in actuality.
Hmm. Yeah, like that meme that's been going around lately where the man is seen as, this super macho man, but when he's home alone with his girlfriend, he likes to be held like a baby and call her mommy and all of these things. But he can't let anybody out in the public know, or else that's literally going to be the end of him. And that's really unfortunate. And because of that, a lot of men are seen as unemotional because they don't even trust their partners to say that when they have these intimate moments, it's not going to end up being public knowledge or used to ridicule them when they're having a fight. We kind of went into the traditional expectations of men. We focused on men versus women a lot, but let's talk about men versus men. All right, so let's talk about the struggles of maintaining our manhood amongst men. We are often telling each other that we should man up, and if you have a problem, you must speak your mind and get it off your chest. But however, when that moment arrives, you're no longer seen as a man, you're seen as being rude. So, why is that? You did something that I don't like, that I don't approve of, and you said I should come to you like a man and tell you what's up. That's what I did. And your response is, don't talk to me like that. You make me feel like me a boy and me a man. I have a job. I work for myself. I'm not answer to nobody and I do what I want. So what's the solution there? Because I don't get it. And it's not a situation whereas I approach them and be rude, using vulgar language or belittling them or anything. But but to me, in my eyes, it's like they feel ashamed or they feel personally attacked by the call out, and then instead of owning up to it, they want to challenge you to say that you're the one who's wrong. So, what's up with that?
Okay, what I think is happening is it's basically you and them are in a completely two different worlds where their perspective and your perspective are not the same. So, which it would cause conflict. They existed in a period where masculinity was literally, let's just say Fred Flintstone. I'm gonna hit a woman if she talk up to me. I have no reason to justify myself. I just do what I need for do. Yeah, that is it. And our generation right now has made so many milestones in getting males to actually be more vulnerable and agreeing with each other. And we have an older generation, which would basically be like, why are they doing this? This does not make sense. This does not compute. I cannot relate. Of course, you can't relate. You have literally spent all of your life being a fortress of solitude that you don't even, you yourself would never know what it even meant by the word sharing or relating or helping someone through an emotional struggle. I believe their sense of helping someone through an emotional struggle is the equivalent of someone with a stick poking at somebody, asking them, so what you gonna do about it? That's what I believe what their capacity is for helping someone through an emotional time. Where we have men now that are more capable of relating to somebody else's experiences instead of actually just saying, what you want me for do? What you come to me here for? I don't understand. You can't really expect too much of the older generation. You really can't. At best, you can probably teach them how to understand, or not teach them how to understand, but teach them teach them how to understand, basically. Teach them how to be able to, like, do what to do in this type of circumstance and hope for the best that they'll be able to get it. But proving yourself with someone of our older generation is very difficult, because in each generation there's literally like distinct ways in which we go about doing our lives. I believe the next generation of men would have been a lot more expressive, a lot more understanding, a lot more compromising. And if you make that generation meet basically their grandparents, it would have been there would have been conflicts, of course, and their ability to relate with each other would have basically been a wall, because the transition between the generations is too big of change. So, in relation to your experience, wondering, asking, why are they telling you to just man up? It's just them using that as an excuse not to address every single problem that is in the room. Like, there could literally be a dead body in the room, and they'll not even be able to understand what to do with it. You could be emotionally distraught because someone just died for you. They don't know what to do about that. It could be your graduation ceremony and you're going to be late, and they just see you crying and they just don't know what to do. They just literally do not know what to do because they do not they never practice their emotional aptitude for relating with other men in their time. So that answers my question.
All right. So, what hope do we have for the future? Because it just seems like a never ending cycle of failure. Although, not to sell us short, we definitely have made a lot of progress compared to in the past. Because in the past, we were very ashamed and will literally run for the hills at the thought of being the stay at home dad. We stay home, wash, cook, and clean while the wife goes and work. But we are definitely embracing that now, and I'm seeing a lot of fathers actually playing an active role in the lives of their sons in this age. So we definitely are making progress. But what can we really do to help each other? What can we do to help?
By helping each other, actually, just by being there for each other. If you have a friend who's going through a rough time because a family member died, you can go out with them. You guys could just literally be talking and having a great time. If someone's going through a rough time, wondering what to do because their girlfriend is pregnant, you just remind them that that child is not hers, but both of you are now parents and will have to make sacrifices for the child because you wish for them to have a brighter future. And given the fact that we've never had positive father figures, they could be that positive father figure in that child's life. So just by reinforcing these new norms and encouraging those that wish to make positive impact on society, we can create a change. I'm not saying that we can completely flush out the old narrative, but I'm saying traditionally we need to let go of certain beliefs that have hindered us from being capable of understanding the struggles that each other are going through.
All right, interesting. So, based on this conversation, is it possible for us to actually attempt to give a definition to manhood that doesn't just mean just being an adult?
Okay, so I don't okay, I don't know if a definition needs to be changed, but I do believe it's what we feel about it or what we think what it is or what it entails needs to be changed. Like for masculinity, we definitely need to change what the story being written about it. Like you can't be hearing stories of masculinity is basically a man beating his wife because she disobeyed. No, it should be a story about how he had two jobs just to take care of his wife and child. That's the story we're trying to portray when we hear the word masculinity. Um, for manhood, it's definitely a boy taking on responsibilities instead of cowering back, respecting himself as well as respecting others. And when I say manhood, I literally mean like going into adulthood as a male, understanding that he himself can make an impact on his immediate family and his friends, and as well as society. Uh, I'll put like before manhood, when you're a child, you're allowed to make mistakes, and other people will definitely like be able to be able to like t- take responsibility for that. But transitioning into adulthood or manhood, it's basically you as a man, you as a boy becoming a man. Now understanding that your mistakes do have consequences, and you will be accountable for them. Like I've known mothers to have some mothers in some inner city communities to have boys who are basically so rough, so rebellious that you can't even keep them in school for 5 days in the week. Them literally just gone somebody yard or gone to pick fight with somebody. Now going into manhood is like you literally have to put those things down because you can't become a man with this violent mentality that you're gonna pick a fight with the next person that comes towards you. No, you're not going to. That's not gonna meet it. That's not gonna cause it in the corporate world. You have to build more tolerance towards different types of characters in society. You don't just act out as soon as something that doesn't go your way. That is manhood.
That's a definitely that I definitely agree with what you said, but at the same time, I don't know how to help them because you can only help those who actually want help. Because a lot of these guys and men today, they look down on working in an office as they see it as only women should work in the office. In 2021, we literally have men who believe that working in an AC wearing a shirt and tie is effeminate, and they don't want to work in corporate just because they see it as only soft men work in corporate. So it's like you want to help, but you can't. You're, it, I don't see how.
I do believe that isn't everybody's voice and that isn't everybody's opinion, as we still have males working in those corporations. But as for those that wish to label working in corporation as effeminate, they should be questioning themselves. What are they doing to improve on their own livelihood? What are they doing? Smoking cigarettes at the corner with your friends and drinking alcohol until you can't stand up again will definitely get you killed by age 30 or age 40 or age 50. And women nowadays have become very, 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 very picky people. So if they don't get their shit together, then they'll never be considered anybody's final option. So I will never feel sorry for persons who don't want to improve on themselves. I will only focus on those that would want to improve on upon themselves. So I am never, ever, ever going to go out of my way to force a horse to a water and then force its head down to drink the water. If the bastard wishes to die by dehydration, by all means, you can go ahead. This water is very clean. I can drink from it. But if you're so uptight and prideful that you don't believe that this is good for you, then I definitely believe you shall be in the Museum of History with the rest of the dinosaurs. But I do not believe feeling sorry for persons who don't want to change is a way forward. You should focus on who are willing to.
I get what you mean by that. I get what you mean by that. But unfortunately, those who actually wants to change, they're not the ones who necessarily need our help. It's the one that don't want to change who needs our help the most, and they're the ones who are actually proactively going forward and having three, four, seven kids and passing on this poisonous mentality. But it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. Like I said, they don't want to change. They do not need our help. And if you ask them, they still would say that they did not want our help because that's what they want for themselves.
Thanks for listening. This has been Mr. Fox, and I'm looking forward to joining you with another conversation next time. And please remember, you can always follow us on social media. You can just type in Odda Part on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And don't forget YouTube. So that is ODDAPART. See you next time.